here we are in New World again. I decided to jump in and see what has changed. And, you know, there's a lot of really good things about New World, I gotta say. The environment is pretty. The world is fun to interact with. Gathering and crafting has a lot of positive elements about it. I kind of hate this game. I don't know why. It's like it has so much potential to be good. And then at the same time, it feels like obvious things get missed. It's like how there was no swimming mechanic in the game for 2 or 3 years. So if you walked out into a lake, you would just walk on the bottom until you drowned. It's that kind of stuff. Like, how do you design a game, have a drowning mechanic built into the game, but you don't think to create the option to swim? Then there's, as another example, you log in, a Turnum update has happened, and the UI is clearly scaled now for console. And there's no option to rescale the UI so that it's tailored to a widescreen monitor. It's not a big deal. It's just another one of those things where, why is it that I log into the game for the first time and intuitively the first thing that is on my mind is, oh, the UI is not scaled the way I want. Let me go find the option to rescale the UI. And guess what? Oh, there is no option for that. Okay. And then notifications pop up for various reasons in the game, and I look to see, oh, can I turn those off? No, you can't. Like, it just is what it is. It's not a big deal. It's just a little annoyance. Those little things where you would think that people would play the game, test the game, get a feel for what are the pain points, what are the experiences that people are having, and then fix those. Because they're not huge deals. It's just little things. But somehow they design something that's really good in many ways. But it's tone deaf at the same time. There's a bug. If you go to the marketplace and try to sell something, and it's existed for a very long time, and it's never been fixed. I hate that bug. And I've always wondered, why is it that after 3 years of development, the bug continues to remain? And I'm actually going to show it to you, just because it's easy to illustrate what I'm talking about. I also have to say, the font for player names went from being nice to being absolutely ugly. And I'm assuming it has something to do with the shift to a console format. But my goodness, look at those player names. Just so off-putting. Like the most basic font. We switched to some kind of like Arial Narrow or something. Like, it looks like a font that comes out of the default Microsoft Word or something. I don't know. That's obnoxious. So anyway, one thing I will say to New World's defense is it is easy to toggle between keyboard and mouse and controller, and I do like that. But let's just go to the trading post, and here we are. So let's say I want to sell something. I'm going to go up there, and I'm going to find an item that I want to sell. And I go to place a sell order. And first of all, what's it going to do? It's going to say quantity of 1. Well, okay. Where's the option for me to just say I want to sell the entire stack? There is no option. So I have to drag this slider over and go to that effort before I can create my sale request. And that's just, it's an added step. Like, why not just have an option there by default, sell the whole stack? Why can't we do that? It's not intuitive. Or we're going to go down here to existing buy orders and we're going to sell the item. We're going to sell it outright. Okay, so I sold these air motes. 9 of them, I sold them on the market right now. But look at that. They're still listed here. They're still listed in my inventory as ready to sell. So let's try to sell them again. What's going to happen? Oh, insufficient items. Insufficient items. Why is it insufficient items? They're listed here. It says I own 9, but it won't let me sell them. And the reason is because I just sold them. But the UI did not update this list to show that this item, which is now no longer in my inventory and has been sold, is gone. It's still there. So let's go down here and let's sell this animal fang. Can we? Oh, no, there are no buy orders. So I guess I can't sell it because no one has any, there's no demand for it. So maybe that just isn't going to happen. But we can, maybe bananas. All right, there's some buy orders for bananas. So we'll sell these bananas and see what happens. Sold all 4 of my bananas. Are they there still? No, it looks like the bananas are no longer showing in my inventory. Okay, so it's not every single item. But I'll bet you this death wisp is going to be that way. We'll sell the 2 death wisps. But see, there you go. It's still on the list. Can we sell? We'll sell these 2 rabbit foots and see what happens. It's still there as well. So, how obnoxious is that? You go to the market and you want to sell items. As a general rule, it seems like what the deal is here is that if it's an item which is a consumable, it'll work. But if it's certain items that are non-consumable items, it hangs like this. Now, we're going to take this earth wisp. I have 1 earth wisp. I'm going to sell it. And see, the thing is, you hit sell. By default, it's set to a quantity of 1. But down here, there's red writing that says select quantity. So I have to click somewhere in this slider box to interact with it just a little bit so that the UI will recognize that the quantity is actually set to 1 so that I can then proceed to click the sell button. And then it loads for just like a little bit. And like, why does it have to sit here and load for like half a second? Why can't it just be an instant, you click sell and it sells? And then it updates the UI to show you that the item that you sold has been sold. I'm not saying this is the end of the world. It's just that little bit of obnoxious, that little bit of, why do you have to click 4 buttons to do something that you should be able to do with 1 button? Why are there little UI glitches that after 3 years you would think would be patched out? Because if the developers played their own game even casually, wouldn't they experience the same thing? Wouldn't they notice this and think to themselves, gee, I don't like that. Why don't we fix that? Or the font above people's names. Like, wouldn't they look at that and say, gee, this doesn't look like an improvement over the way it was before? Why not have an option so that people can change the way the font for character names looks? Like, see, here we have this NPC, and you have the old style of font there, which is elegant and actually looks nice. And then you have all of those player names over there, which break immersion with their basic font that looks like it came out of an Office document. You know, I don't really want to rag on the game too much because, like I said, there's good things about New World. I think there's a lot of innovative things, like the fact that if you jump onto your mount and then you auto run, your mount will naturally follow the road. It's kind of like Black Desert. It's an auto run feature, which just works, but it's not a hard auto run. It's not really fixed to a point. It's just if you happen to be on a path and you auto run, then your mount or yourself will follow the path that you're on. And I think that that's actually really, really cool because it's a mixture between an auto function and user interaction that just allows you to pivot between the two very seamlessly. The mounts are actually quite nice. I like them. I love the gathering. I love the just exploring, chopping trees down, going random places and just kind of chilling out and being part of the world. I think the combat feels better than any other MMO that I've ever played in terms of just the sense of impact, that you strike something or pierce something or fire a weapon and it feels like that's impactful. It feels like it's something that is really, you know, I guess the weapon feels like it's coming in contact with the target. And I like that. I like that a lot. Weapons feel different. They feel substantial. It is a game where it feels like you can wear whatever armor you find, and I think that the way armor looks is appealing without needing skins or anything to improve that. What I don't like, though, is that the skins that are available really look pretty ridiculous. So I don't know that I necessarily have all that much good to say about the character design in New World, because it's just kind of underwhelming. I do like the idea of you are what you wear, where you kind of just, you find gear, you put on gear, and you don't have a skin that you choose, and then it just kind of never changes. Like, as you evolve and find different weapons, your character's appearance changes too. And I think that that's something that's enjoyable. Certainly it's something that's fun in games like RuneScape, for example, where you can just look at a character and you can see what kind of a character it is based on what it's wearing. And that's something that's missing, I think, in a lot of MMOs these days, where typically you can't just look at a person's character and know what kind of level they're at or anything like that. And New World is not necessarily that way. Like you do have a lot of skins and stuff. You have transmog and all of that. So it's not really like that in New World, but if you want it to be, if you want your character just be, you are what you wear, then for you at least, it can be that way, where you find gear and stuff and you wear it, and you don't necessarily need to rely on transmog to find a combination of gear that looks reasonably good. In any case, I think it's interesting how New World can check so many boxes and feel like it's so good in a way, and then also feel like it kind of falls flat still. I don't know exactly why it is, but I think it boils down to some of the underlying spirit behind the development philosophy of the game. I think that the studio just didn't really do all that good of a job of making it feel like the game has a soul, an identity of its own. It feels like we never really got past that perception that this is a game made by Amazon. Jeff Bezos jokes are abundant, and it's not that it's a terrible game. It's just, why is it that, to illustrate my point, if I go to the menu and I go to character, I go to bio, I can change my pronouns here, right? So anytime I want, I could become a they, them, like that's important enough to add pronouns in there. But if I wanted to change the hairstyle on my character, that's completely impossible. Despite the fact that a lot of players have asked for this. Barbershop, So, how does that work? How does it work that you have thought this through enough to understand you can allow players to change their pronouns, because it's important for players to be able to change their pronouns, but no matter how much people ask, a barbershop feature is outside the scope of the roadmap. Why? It's tone deaf. It just doesn't really have an excuse, other than the developers are doing whatever it is that they want to do, which maybe once in a while resonates with what players are asking for, but it always seems like they kind of miss the boat, because there's something a little bit off about the entire development team and design philosophy that has guided New World. And I think you can have some really good things, but when you also have some sort of socio-political problems in a studio, it kind of flows out in the quality of work that's done, the interpretation of what a roadmap should look like. And it continues to be the case that New World feels like a suspiciously soulless game, which perhaps is fitting because Aeternum, this island that we're exploring, is a soulless place. It's a place where people go to linger and never die, but no one ever finds any real sense of redemption or purpose while they're there. People respawn endlessly, and yet there is never any real moral to the story, other than mere existence in a place that is lost spiritually, lost physically, a place that appears on no map anywhere. So, maybe it's fitting that a game that's all about being endlessly lost on an island which has no soul, perhaps it makes sense that the game itself would also lose its way. Maybe that's too much philosophy. What I know is that I do like gathering stuff. I like chopping trees. I like running around in New World. But every time I log in, after I cut a few trees down and look around a little bit more, I can't help getting that feeling that these are places I've seen before. And I just don't know if I really care too much. I'm not saying I won't come back. I'm not saying that I don't like the game, though some aspects of the game's design still frustrate me. I love the fishing mechanics. I like the fish animations. I like the way it feels to fish. I think the music mechanic in the game is very nice. The housing mechanic is actually pretty good. It's not as good as Elder Scrolls Online, but for a game that's monetized in a far more fair way than Elder Scrolls Online, it is one of the better house design and decoration mechanics out there. So you can play the game as a musician, as a fisherman, as a lumberjack, as a house furnisher. There's so many different things you can do in New World. That counts for something. But there is some nuance, though, to what makes a game feel repetitive. What makes it feel like something where you want to stick around. And I guess that boils down to the sense of community, you know? What kind of people are playing the game? Are you able to connect with people on some level in a way that feels meaningful? And I guess in closing, what I would say is New World is not, while it's not a perfect game, while there are stones we can certainly throw at it, and while I'm not a huge fan of the development team, necessarily, I think New World has gone more in the right direction than in the wrong direction. I think that the monetization alone is a good reason to say, why not give the game a chance? Because you can play it without needing to subscribe. You can be part of the experience without paying $15 a month. All things considered, it's not a terrible deal. It's one of the best values for your money you could probably buy in the MMO space. So it's not a bad time to come back, give it a try, and consider, at least casually, adding New World back into the rotation of games that you play. Even if it's just once in a while to go play some silly songs in the middle of a town center. And I think that there is the framework for a good social community in the game, maybe more so than many other MMOs. So the game doesn't have to be perfect to deliver some good experiences. And in the end, it really is what you make of it. I sometimes think, though, you know, we go off on these adventures in life, in games. Maybe we want those adventures to continue to be new and fresh and amazing. And they don't last forever, you know? Like you can love something and then realize that its time has come and gone. And you can go to the same places that you went before but you can't have the same experiences. I remember when New World first launched, and that was an amazing experience. To log in and see all the hype around the game and have this sense of being part of something fresh and new. And now, New World is not really a new game anymore. It's a game that's been around for a while. A game that's had plenty of time to be criticized for its flaws. The honeymoon phase for New World is over. It gets a little bit of a jump with the console update, but it's never going to be the hype show it was on launch day. Now, probably a good 3 years ago. Maybe that's a metaphor for life. Maybe that's why I keep coming back. Because when you play a lonely game that feels like it's beautiful, but it's also missing something, you're reminded life is like that too. We have good experiences, we have good memories, and then we return to those old places. We talk to the old friends. We reminisce about the good old days. And we talk about a revival. A big comeback. And the truth is, we know that we can never go back. Because we have changed as well. We can still have good experiences, but we can't go back. And it's sort of like fall. It's late fall, or mid-fall right now. It's still warm outside. It's still a great time to go out and enjoy the crisp air and maybe a coffee with some pumpkin spice flavor in it. But winter is coming. One season comes to an end and a new season begins. Spring will come again, but winter will come next. And there's a melancholy about that, you know? When you think the number of fall days, the time for carving of pumpkins and all of that is soon going to give way and yield to the first snow. It's the end of a thing. Not necessarily the end of life, not necessarily the end of all things, but it is the end of something. And coming to terms with that is an interesting sort of melancholy. And that's kind of the feeling I get with a game like New World. We can all come back, but we can't experience the initial launch of the game. And even if it is a game with some good traits, it'll never be a game that quite lives up to what we once had hoped it would be. Maybe that's just proof that you can't ever completely satisfy expectations, and when you go into something with really high expectations, you set yourself up to be disappointed on some level. I don't know. I do think, though, playing Black Desert Online a lot lately is kind of intriguing, that really I feel more connected to Black Desert Online than I do to New World, despite the fact they're both good games, and probably New World has a more active player base right now. But Black Desert Online is more of a game that I feel like I want to get to know the world. I want to explore it. I want to spend a while adventuring there. New World just feels a lot more like a game where, you know, kind of been there, kind of seen what it has to offer. And I don't know. I don't know how much time I want to spend in this game. I may continue to play it. I may get back into it. Or maybe it'll just be a good but not perfect game that just chills in the Steam library and sort of fades off into the memory of yet another MMO that promised the world and fell a little bit short along the way. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.